I am the emperor of mankind, and this is the account of my most loyal son, not the wisest, not the most noble, not the one who loved me, but the one who obeyed, without condition, without comprehension. He was not shaped to lead. He was not sculpted to inspire. He was forged to end. He did not worship me as Lorgar did. He did not question me as Magnus did. He did not accept me as the lion did. He simply listened and acted. His name was Leman Russ. When my sons were cast across the stars, I did not choose where they would fall. The warp did. It cast them into the galaxy, like shrapnel torn from a broken blade. Each of them was altered by the world that found them. Some rose to nobility, some fell into blood. Leman Russ became Fenris, a world of death, of hunger, of elemental violence. He did not rise above its savagery. He did not escape it. He became it. He was not a child who survived a brutal world. He was the apex of that brutality. He hunted, he ruled, he killed, and when I found him, he did not kneel, he did not weep, he did not praise me. He challenged me, not out of pride, not out of hate, but because I had stepped into his territory, unannounced. Even then, he did not seek to understand who I was. He only asked one thing: was I worthy of his submission? I could have crushed him, but that was not why I had come. Russ was not designed to bow. He was designed to stand where others fell. Of all the sons I recovered, none were more consistent, none more direct, none more inevitable. He did not struggle with doubt. He did not weigh choices. He followed the chain of command as if it were the chain of fate. Where others debated purpose, Russ embodied it. Where others hesitated at crossroads, Russ was already in motion. I did not trust him to rule. I trusted him to remove those who ruled incorrectly. Among his brothers, he was feared, respected, but rarely embraced. They knew what he was. They knew what I had made him to be. He was not their equal. He was their consequence. Magnus sought knowledge. Fulgrim sought perfection. Horus sought destiny. Russ sought none of these. He did not dream. He did not scheme. He did not aspire. He executed. Even when I spoke nothing, he listened for command. And that, perhaps, was the first fracture. At Nicaea, the lines were drawn: sorcery or silence, wisdom or restraint. I banned the former because I knew what lay beneath it. Russ did not argue. He did not question. He stood as still as the axe on his back. Magnus did what I knew he would. He disobeyed, not out of malice, but out of desperation. He broke the veil to reach me, to warn me, and in doing so, he broke everything else. I gave the order: bring him to Terra, alive, not punished, not slain, retrieved. Russ heard the order, but the words that reached him were not mine. Horus had already begun to rot, and in his decay, he reached into my command. He altered it, twisted retrieval into retribution. Russ did not question the change. He did not notice the deception. Because Russ was not made to interpret, he was made to comply. There are those who believe this was betrayal, that Russ acted with hatred. They are wrong. He did not burn Prospero out of malice. He did not break Magnus out of rivalry. He did it because the order had changed, and he was the order. Another son might have hesitated. Another might have asked, why this? Why now? But Russ did not pause. He advanced. Because he believed, I had spoken. That is the curse of perfect obedience. It hears my silence as command, and my presence as judgment. Russ did not know me. He did not pretend to understand me. But he belonged to me, utterly. And so, he did what no other son could have done. what no other son would have allowed himself to do. He brought fire where there should have been restraint, finality where there should have been redemption. I sent him to bring back a brother, and in his mind, that meant conquest. He was a blade unsheathed, and I had let it rust too long in silence, and when it struck exactly where I had once aimed it. Leman Russ was not my error. He was my intention, and that is what made him so dangerous. There are those who say I feared Russ. They are wrong. What I feared was what Russ would become if I asked too much of him. He was a wolf, and a wolf will tear apart whatever it is unleashed upon. But if it is leashed too long, with no prey to chase, it turns on its master, not out of rebellion, but because it knows only one truth: to bite. I did not fear Leman Russ. I feared the purpose I had sealed within him. The other legions had their doctrines, their cultures, their pride. I allowed them symbols, language, ritual, but the 6th Legion, I gave them none of that. Only a role. They were my executioners, not in name, in nature. When compliance failed, when brothers disobeyed, when unity fractured, I sent the wolves. They did not conquer, they ended. Russ understood this, perhaps not in words, but in instinct. He knew what he was, not the sword held high in ceremony, but the blade drawn in silence. The others wore titles. Russ wore a target, and his brothers knew it. Angron met him with rage, Mortarion with disdain, Kurz with spite. Even Horus kept his distance, because Russ did not argue. He arrived, he acted. Guilliman called him a blunt instrument. Magnus called him a monster. They were both wrong. He was not blunt, he was precise, and he was not a monster. He was mine, and I was silent. That silence became a fracture. After Prospero, I did not send Russ to chase the traitors. I sent him to wait, to hold his legion, to restrain the instincts I had carved into them. But wolves do not wait well. They do not pray. They do not build. They do not govern. They hunt. And in the absence of a hunt, they decay. With every report of betrayal, every world that burned, Russ did not harden. He hollowed. He had been forged for endings. But I had ordered him to endure, not to strike, not to purge, but to remain still, while everything he had faith in came undone. That was what broke him. Not battle, not heresy, not Magnus. Stillness. By the time I called him again, terror was already burning. The wolves were loosed, but it was too late. They did not bite the neck. They gnawed at the corpse. Russ returned not to stop the fall, but to witness it. And still, he obeyed. Even then, even as the Imperium cracked, even as the blood of his kin stained the stars, even as Prospero smoldered in his memory, he obeyed. Not because he believed in me, but because obedience was all he had left. Russ did not worship me. He did not pray to me. He did not even love me. But he believed in the chain of command. And I was the last link. But even a chain, if pulled too long, snaps. After the siege, he did not celebrate. He did not remain in the halls of victory. He did not kneel before my throne. He turned and vanished. He took his closest warriors and left, without explanation, without farewell. Some say he hunts still, that he walks the void, awaiting the final war. Others say he seeks something: forgiveness, redemption, peace. I do not think so. Russ was not built for reflection. He was not forged for peace. He was forged to end. And I left him without an ending. The other sons built empires. Russ built nothing. He left only silence, no monuments, no sermons, only the echo of a howl fading into the stars. And in that silence others spoke for him. They called him a god, a legend, a myth. But that is not what he was. Russ was not divine. He was not a savage. He was not mad. He was loyal, fiercely, absolutely, to a fault. And when the voice he obeyed grew silent, he did not know what to become. Some say he regrets Prospero, that in exile he came to understand what was lost, that he carries guilt beneath his fury. I do not know. Russ was not made to question. He was made to act. But action, without purpose, is suffering. And in that, perhaps, I did fail him. I taught him how to strike, but not why to hold back. I taught him how to obey, but not how to think when orders ceased. He never asked, and I never explained. That was our bond, and our curse. He obeyed flawlessly, and I gave him silence in return. In the end, it was not hatred that consumed him. It was not war. It was not betrayal. It was the absence of command. That is the tragedy of Leman Russ. He was not lost to chaos. He was not slain by a traitor's hand. He was not broken by doubt. He was broken by purpose, unfulfilled. He was the one who advanced while others hesitated, the one who carried out judgment when others debated it, the one who struck because he believed I had spoken. He was the one who remained when even I was gone, and that made him terrifying. Not because he was wild, but because he was loyal to the bitter end. Leman Russ was not my mistake. He was my design. And that is what made him so dangerous.